Hey everyone, my name's Josh Gordon, and I'm here today with JJ Allaire. And JJ is the founder of RStudio, and he recently added support for TensorFlow and Keras to R. So JJ, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And could you tell me a little bit about the work you've done?
Absolutely. TensorFlow came out, I think, about 2.5 years ago. And from the day that it came out, I've been excited about what we could do with TensorFlow from R. The R community is filled of people who are not, they don't self-identify as software developers. They identify as statisticians or economists or biologists. And the interfaces we build to modeling and statistics from R tend to be really fluent, high-level interfaces that kind of are really well married to the vocabulary of the domain that people are doing work in. And so TensorFlow brings this awesome capability for neural networks and even just as a general purpose numerical computing framework. And I thought, wow, we can do incredible things from R to make all this power available to all these people solving hard problems. But then particularly the Keras interface, which I hope we'll get to talk about a little bit more, is a really nice high-level vocabulary for doing deep learning that fits really well with the way R users work and think. And so I was excited to both kind of make the core capabilities of TensorFlow available, but then also to make the Keras API available as well.
One thing you did too is you contributed some really great educational resources, especially in Keras.
So we probably spent as much or more time on educational resources as we did on the actual interfaces. So I worked on a book along with Francois Chollet about deep learning with R, adapted his deep learning with Python book. Francois is actually the creator of Keras. So worked on that book. We created a whole bunch of examples, probably 25 or so examples of using Keras and many other examples. We created a gallery of kind of longer form blog posts that describe like really in-depth worked examples in different domains. So we have invested a huge amount in educational resources and are going to continue to do that.
And this book is excellent.
The book is awesome, yes.
I read the Python version cover to cover.
Yeah.
And I taught a class with it. Students loved it. I strongly recommend it to all the developers I meet.
What's remarkable about it is that it covers the concepts, the conceptual terrain of deep learning in a way that's, I think, is really intuitive for people to understand with not a huge number of prerequisites. But it also has a wealth of practical information about how to actually do deep learning, what are the small problems you come up with, what are the failure modes and how to overcome them. So it's a rare book that combines kind of conceptual material and practical material. So I recommend that as the first thing that people who are in the R community and they say, I want to learn more about this, I recommend that they get that book and read it first.
There's probably a lot of work porting that over to R.
Yeah, it was, but most of the book is predominantly conceptual, and then there are these examples. And so I really just changed the examples, but really most of the book ends up being conceptual at kind of at a higher level than specific languages, so it wasn't too bad.
And then another thing you have on the R website, the RStudio website, which is really cool, is worked end-to-end examples.
That's right. We have a gallery where we don't just show you, oh, here's the mechanics of solving a certain type of problem, but we go kind of from the beginning, here's the motivation, here's the data set, maybe let's visualize the data set a little bit, let's try different approaches to the problem and see what works and doesn't work. So we kind of cover end-to-end like what the workflow of a data scientist would go through to solve these problems. So, and again, we're going to be investing in more of those because I think that's the way that people can really get engaged with this, is not just learning the basic mechanics and concepts, but seeing how it actually applies to their field.
I like this combination a lot.
Yes.
It's a really solid set of learning resources.
Yes. Good.
So in addition to supporting Keras, you also have support for TensorFlow Estimators.
Yes, we have another R package. There's actually a suite of 7 R packages that we have for TensorFlow. There's an R package called TensorFlow, which is a low-level interface to the full TensorFlow graph and the full TensorFlow API. There's the Keras API, which we've been talking about. And then we have TensorFlow Estimators, which is another high-level framework that Google has for doing models like classification and regression models, classification and regression using DNNs. And so those are really, really high-level functions that come with a nice framework for data pre-processing and things, and a nice framework for deploying the models. So we have another package called TF Estimators that covers the Estimators API.
Deployment is really important to have as well.
It is, and that's one of the things that I'm most excited about, because traditionally with R, when you do modeling and then you want to deploy the model in some fashion, you have to bring the R runtime along with you, and that can be a challenge. So what the design of TensorFlow is that you're writing a program, but that program is creating a graph, and that graph is executed by a runtime, a C++ runtime. So deploying models doesn't require that you bring R or Python or any of these sorts of languages that you used to model into deployment. And so we have another package called TF Deploy that helps people with sort of serializing their saved models, putting REST interfaces on top of their saved models, getting models actually brought into JavaScript. There's a library called Keras.js that lets you take a Keras model and run it in a browser. So we've got lots of tools for that, and that's actually one of the most exciting things about TensorFlow is this deployment model.
So tensorflow.js supports a Keras-compatible API. And I believe what this means is that people will be able to author models in R.
That's right.
Using the Keras interface.
That's right.
And then deploy
them.
And then
deploy them right into a browser. Yeah,
that's going to be huge.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. So I think a lot of people in the R community that I've talked, I mean, all communities, I think it's such a fundamentally good idea to take models and serialize them into this runtime format that doesn't, because the languages and tools that are good for for exploratory data analysis, training models, authoring models, those are different than the languages that are good for deployment. It's a really good division of responsibilities that TensorFlow kind of enforces. And so I'm hopeful that our users who want to put their models in production now will have a really straightforward way to do that.
I think so too. And it's a really good opportunity for data scientists to visualize the results of their experiments by actually deploying their models.
Yeah, yeah.
So say I'm an R developer new to deep learning. About how much code is it going to take for me to write my first neural network?
Well, interestingly, if you look at our examples, the hard part about deep learning is not generally writing the code. Many of our examples are on the order of 100 lines of code, or even less than that sometimes. The hard part is actually figuring out what sort of model to build and how it should, what the architecture of the model should be and what the hyperparameters of the model should be. That's where all the time is. The actual expression of the model in code is actually quite trivial, but model building really ends up being not about the code, but about mapping your problem and the data and the tools you have together to get a good solution.
I completely agree. It's well put. And I think a lot of people from the R community, especially from a stats and data science background, will be naturals.
The background and training of people in the R community, the understanding of how to do modeling, statistics, probability, is perfect for deep learning. And I'm really excited once more people in the R community get their hands on these tools of the kind of work that we're going to see.
Me too. So JJ, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Just to close things out, where's the best place for developers to go to learn more about deep learning in R?
The best place, we have a website called tensorflow.rstudio.com. It has documentation for all the packages I talked about, Keras and Estimators and the Core TensorFlow API. It has information about deployment. It has a gallery of in-depth examples, kind of blog posts. It has a whole bunch of additional learning resources. So tensorflow.rstudio.com is definitely the place to go to get started.
Okay, thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.